Today we're gonna talk about the oldest written Germanic language, a language that was once spoken from Spain to Crimea, a language that now has vanished without leaving any descendants. Hails! My name is Julie, and welcome to the Gothic language. The Goths. No, not these Goths, but these ones. Goths once ruled half of Europe, but now all we have remaining from them is an architecture style and a subculture. And none of this is even connected to the actual Goths. This is a map of Europe in 500 AD, just 24 years after Rome was once again sacked by the Goths, and this time they even replaced the emperor by a Goth king. All this was at this time ruled by the Goths. But where are they now? And who were they anyways? Goths were East Germanic people speaking East Germanic languages that are related to other Germanic languages, like, well, German or Norwegian or English, but are not their ancestors or descendants, but more like cousins. In fact, all East Germanic languages are now extinct languages. It seems it was starting off great for them until something went very wrong. But Goths have actually a much longer history than just dominating the agonizing remnants of the Roman Empire. So let's start from the times more ancient. For example, let's see Europe 4,500 years ago. Exactly the time when Indo-Europeans were spreading all over the place, and while doing that, dividing into different families. Those Indo-Europeans who went north and into Scandinavia later became Proto-Germanic people. They stayed in southern Scandinavia for a bit. Things were going well for them, so throughout the first millennia BC, they started slowly but steadily expanding back south. Celts, move aside. Suddenly, they found themselves at the border of the Roman Empire. That is also the time in history that Romans used to call the era of barbarian invasions. What an interesting coincidence. On this Roman map of 125 AD, we see Gothones in Poland. They continued moving south, and by mid-3rd century, they occupied a large area north and west of the Black Sea. During this period, Goths highly interacted with the Roman Empire, either by raiding it or getting recruited into the Roman army, participating in Roman politics, and migrating into Roman territories. The interaction was so tight that in the 4th century, Goths converted to Christianity. And everything might have stayed that way, but the wind of change came from the east. The Huns pushed the Goths, and the Goths pushed into the Roman Empire. By that time, Goths split into two main groups, East and West, or Ostrogoths and Visigoths. Visigoths left their territories in Dacia and wandered around searching for a place to settle. They wandered around quite a bit. They went to the Balkans, to Italy, sacking Rome on the way, and in the 5th century ending up in southern France and Spain. The Ostrogoths left their lands in modern-day Ukraine and also moved west. First to Central Europe around Hungary, and then following a well-known trail, went to the Balkans, then to Italy, sacked Rome, and in 476 ended the rule of the Western Roman emperors, which in history is considered to be the year of the fall of the Roman Empire. Of course, the Ostrogoths didn't think that they brought fall to anything, because technically the Roman emperor was still around, just sitting in Constantinople. The 6th century was a state of constant war in Italy. Ostrogoths were pushed by the Byzantines from the sea and by the Lombards, a West Germanic tribe, from the north. After years of battling, they got dissolved in these events, and we don't hear about them anymore after the 6th century. We see a very similar scenario in Spain. Pushed by the Franks to the north and the Arabs to the south, the Visigoth kingdoms disappear around the 8th century. And that's how the Goths vanished into history. However, in the 16th century, a Flemish diplomat whose name I'm not even gonna try to pronounce, traveled to Crimea and wrote down a list of words in an unknown language he heard there, but which sounded suspiciously familiar to his Germanic ear. This was the last surviving descendant of Gothic, spoken in some isolated areas of Crimea, possibly up until the 18th century. Since then, it seems nobody spoke Gothic anymore. However, even today, whenever you hear about Spanish tapas or Slavic chlieb, know that those are the words that stem from the history of Goths. We're just lucky that they left some text behind, otherwise we wouldn't know much about their language. And just as a side note, if you want to pick what language you want to learn about, then check out my Patreon and vote for the next language. As with so many languages around the world, the writing system of Gothic was created in order to better spread the message of God. The key character in the story is Wulfila. He lived in the 4th century, born of Anatolian parents captured by the Goths, so he had knowledge of both Greek and Gothic, and also Latin. He became a bishop and started preaching to the Visigoths the Arian version of Christianity. He and his team developed the Gothic alphabet and translated the Bible. Today, the main source of the Gothic language is the Codex Argenteus, or the Silver Bible. It is a beautiful copy of Wulfila's Bible, probably made for the Ostrogothic king Theodoric the Great in the 6th century. 188 pages of the book survive, and after centuries of adventures and traveling from one part of Europe to another, it ended up in Uppsala, Sweden. Other surviving texts from the Goths are also various fragments of the Bible. Even this graffiti in Crimea from 9th-10th century features quotes from Psalms. From all these findings, linguists could reconstruct 3,204 Gothic words. The alphabet developed by Wulfila reminds the Greek alphabet. It has the same number of letters, and most of the letters bear a strong resemblance to Greek. By the way, the numbers are there because the letters were also used as numerals, indicated by a stroke on top of them, same as in Greek. It is considered that Wulfila made a mix out of 3 writing systems. Either he based his alphabet on Greek with input from Runic and Latin, either it's the other way, he based it on Runic with input from Greek and Latin. Yes, prior to adopting the new alphabet, Goths were using the runes, so now we should explain. What are the runes? Runes are basically an alphabet used by Germanic people before switching to Gothic or Latin alphabets. We don't know where the runes come from, but probably they were adaptations of Etruscan or Old Latin alphabets. The earliest runic inscription dates from 150 AD. We don't have much remaining from the runic inscriptions in Gothic. A ring, a spear, another spear, and a couple of other objects. Most of the letters of the Gothic alphabet do have a Greek equivalent. Origins of some letters are not really known. The letter wire might have come from the runes, and we don't even know the sounds of the letters 90 and 900, since we didn't encounter them in texts much. Also, some letters are clearly from Latin, like the querta corresponding to the Q and hal corresponding to the H. The Gothic vowels can be long or short. Just like in Greek or Latin, they didn't bother indicating. Now it would be the perfect time to listen to the native speakers, but unfortunately, in this case, we are several hundred years late. But if you do want to listen to Gothic, I recommend this poem, written by Tolkien. Can you believe that? The link to the full video is in the description. The poem sounds interesting and beautiful, so check it out after this video, of course. Gothic was a synthetic language, meaning everything was conjugating like crazy, and the word order was either SOV or SVO, or it was just free. It's not really clear, as all sentence examples are from the Bible, which is obviously quite a poetic text talking about sentences. Let's see one. Ya fe fals thos bokos. and he closed those books. It is a slightly weird wording, I know, but it comes from the Bible again, so anyways. First we see that the subject he is omitted. Gothic could drop the pronouns if they were obvious, like Spanish or Italian do, for example, but which is not that common in Germanic languages. Also, pronouns can have 3 numbers, singular, plural or dual, but only in first or second person. Back in the sentence, thos bokos are in accusative, and this is the moment when I show this crazy declension table. Basically, nouns, pronouns and adjectives change endings depending on their role in the sentence. Here, the noun bok, is in the plural, and it is a direct object, so it becomes in accusative. Finally, the verb. It also changes endings, and that's another crazy table to illustrate it. Interestingly, Gothic didn't have future tense, which developed in other Germanic languages. Actually, Gothic came quite far from then, since East Germanic was the first one to split from the Proto-Germanic. Here's another difference. Gothic didn't have any articles, while other Germanic languages developed a definite and an indefinite article. There is only one question left unanswered. We found out who were the Goths and where they came from, more or less, but then who are these guys? Well, that's not really the subject of this video, so I'll try to explain it very briefly. Late Middle Ages, medieval cathedrals getting taller and more ornate. Renaissance, rediscovering Greek and Roman architecture, thinking, oh, this is perfect, so different from what we're building now. Medieval architecture is so anti-Roman. It's what destroyed the Roman, like the Goths that destroyed Roman Empire. So this anti-Roman architecture is Gothic too. Romanticism is here, rediscovering medieval architecture, this time thinking, oh, these Middle Ages have such a mysterious vibe. How do they call this architecture? Oh, it's Gothic, I like it. They call this period the Dark Ages. And you know what? We like the dark. Let's make it even darker. It's even nicer that way. Gothic literature and movies flourishing throughout the 19th and 20th century. The 70s come. The Gothic genre aesthetics enters music and influences subculture with its inspiration of the Middle Ages and the poetization of the dark side. That's a long way from those guys to these, but it's fun to see how words and concepts travel through time and evolve. Makes you think about the eternity and the vanity of this world where everything will eventually turn into ashes and darkness and death. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in our next exploration.